Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. It's Edwin here, the Pretty Green Vinyl Guy. And today I'm gonna be doing a rather special video. It's a response to Rachel the Music Man VC. It's her contest, which is the Pilgrimage Contest. And I wanted to take part in this. And trying to sneak in just before the deadline, which I think is on Friday. So if you're planning on doing a video, you've still got a couple of days to do it. My delay was finding the photos because I knew I had photos of a pilgrimage that I had made, and I luckily found them on an older iPhone, so I do have them, so I'm quite happy with that. Rachel, what can I say? Thank you for joining the VC, and I love your channel. I love your sense of humor, and thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for your bravery, and I wish you nothing but the best and many more subscribers, and I hope to enjoy your channel for many more years. Right, let's get into the contest. We have a pilgrimage contest, which is a great idea. This has never been done before, so fantastic. 2009, I went to England, to London, and to Paris with my wife and 2 children. And we did a week in London and a week in Paris. And one day in London, my wife and daughter wanted to go shopping, and I decided I would take my son out to Abbey Road. Now, I used to live in London. I lived there for 2 years when I started my career. And I had been to Abbey Road. I had jogged past it, and I had cycled past it, and I'd never gone specifically. I'd never had a picture taken at it. So it was kind of a special day when my son and I went out there, catch the tube out to St. John's Wood, and then you walk about 2 blocks. So there is me walking across the zebra crossing at Abbey Road in London. There's the actual Abbey Road front door studio. A little different angle. And there's the famous road sign. Abbey Road, Northwest 8, City of Westminster. So yeah, so that was really cool. My son might have been a little young, but you know, he got into it, and you know, we took photos of each other. Unfortunately, I would love to have staged some sort of photo of the 2 of us walking across in sort of a Beatlesque sequence, but you know, it was you know, didn't know anybody else, so fair enough. And it's a busy road. Like to get a photo on this crosswalk, unless you went like super early in a summer morning or something like that, is very hard to do. It's a very busy road. It's got buses and taxis and cars just whipping up and down. So, and of course there's, you know, hundreds of tourists doing the same thing you are. They're trying to get a photo of themselves on the zebra crossing. So a lot of waiting in line, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that was my pilgrimage to Abbey Road. Now, as I was mentioning, on that same trip, we then went over to Paris, and we rented an apartment in Paris and spent another week there. And all I remember was, one thing about that trip was it was really hot in Paris. It was August. I mean, stupid taking your kids to Europe in August. But, you know, they're out of school, and that's the only time you can go. Anyway, it was over 100 in Paris. And we spent a lot of time obviously going to all the big sites, and Eiffel Tower and out to Versailles and Arc de Triomphe, and through all the museums and walking the streets, and you know, kids had a great time and saw all those iconic buildings and monuments and museums and artwork, all the good things, all the things you're supposed to do. And I remember it was a Sunday. It was the last day, full day we were in Paris, and everyone was exhausted. It was really hot. And I remember I got up on the Sunday morning around 7 7:30, and everyone was zonked out. So I decided to go downstairs and go to one of those bike rental stands. And I rented a bike, and something I had wanted to do, and I knew my wife and kids had no interest in it, was going to the Père Lachaise cemetery. So I cycled out there. It was maybe about 5-6K from where we were staying. And I spent a couple hours walking around, and of course, what I wanted to find was Jim Morrison's gravestone. He, of course, died in Paris in 1971. That one's maybe a little clearer. And another, besides Jim Morrison, there's absolutely hundreds, maybe, of infamous, famous people buried in that graveyard. It's quite outstanding. I mean, if you want to go to a graveyard and see the who's who, I mean, that's the place. But I'd been a huge Doors fan when I was in high school, and I never had it, but one of my best friends in high school, he had the poster of the gravestone, you know, with all the, it was kind of a thing back in the 80s when the Doors had their resurgence, when the greatest hits and Alive She Cried came out. And he actually had the poster of the graveyard where people had written stuff, and I thought that was a little weird, but in my head I was always like, oh, I gotta go there one day. So yeah, so there's my second pilgrimage destination, all on the same trip. So there you go. So that's the story about Edwin going to Abbey Road and going to see Jim Morrison's gravestone. The channel name. Question number 2. Where did you come up with your channel name? This is a good one because I've actually thought about this because, yeah, as Rachel has so well indicated, some channels are obvious because they're just the person's name. And some channels are made up names. And honestly, like when I started on the vinyl community, I didn't want people to know my name. Because I didn't know how this was going to go. I didn't know that I was going to connect with people on like a personal level. I thought it would just be this kind of, you know, separate thing. And for the first 6 months or more, I never said my name. I never, although I did say it in my intro video, and I didn't realize that. And then the odd person would say, "Nice to meet you, Edwin." And I'd be like, "Oh my God, how did they know my name? I don't say my name." And then I realized when I watched my intro video, I said it right at the beginning, even though I never meant to. Anyway, time has moved on, and yes, I've made some friends and connections on the vinyl community. And then about 6 months ago, I didn't care. I just started saying my name in every video. There you go. So, Pretty Green Vinyl Guy. Now, when I was in grade 8, 9, 10, my favorite band was The Jam. I had spent quite a bit of time going back and forth to Belfast in the summers of grade 8, 9, and 10 to stay with my grandfather. And I had 2 older cousins in Belfast that were very into music and fashion. They were punks one summer. I'd go back, they were mods. I'd go back, they were new romantics. And I would get the hand-me-down records and clothes from the previous, you know, style that they had, you know, fallen into. And, you know, we were living in Nanaimo at that time, which was maybe like 40,000 people. I mean, we're like 120,000 now. It's actually one of the fastest growing places in Canada. But back then, in 1981, 2, and 3, it was a logging, mining, fishing town. And there was one summer I came back from Ireland, and it was remember that David Bowie movie, The Man Who Fell to Earth, where he kind of lands in Texas, and he's like an alien from outer space. That was me coming back to Nanaimo with bleached hair and earrings and tight jeans and listening to The Jam, that nobody knew who The Jam was. And if you don't know who The Jam are, they were a punk R&B 3-piece. They sort of evolved. They started quite on just the edge of punk in 79 with In the City, and they progressed into quite R&B-ish sounding which then Paul Weller took even further into the Style Council, which was his second band. So yeah, Paul Weller was the leader of the Jam, and they at one time held a record for the most, I don't know if it was number one, but top 10 singles in the United Kingdom, and yet virtually unknown anywhere else in the world, which is a shame. Anyway, this is Sound Effects, and the first song on side one of Sound Effects is called Pretty Green. And obviously a song about money. And so my name, Pretty Green Vinyl Guy, was sort of, it's going to take money to be a vinyl collector. But also on the opposite side of that, I'm pretty green at knowing about it. You know, I'm learning all the time. So, you know, when you're green, you're not fully educated on something. You still got to learn. So for me, it was kind of a double-sided meaning. Pretty green vinyl guy. Gonna need a lot of green, a lot of money to do this, and you're gonna have to learn a lot to do this. And vinyl and guy, that's pretty self-explanatory. So that's where the name came from. And the third question, do like Bob Bradley, really cool with two hands. The third question is name a pretty, I think you said pretty, song that just has beautiful lyrics and a beautiful song, a beautiful lyric, a beautiful feeling that you get from a song. And I'm gonna stick with the Jam. This is All Mod Cons, which is probably their I'm not going to say best record, but in their discography, it's probably the one that people go to the most. It probably has their most famous song, which closes side 2, Down in the Tube Station at Midnight, which is just an amazing song. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth song on side 1, right here, is called English Rose. And I just think it's one of the most beautiful songs ever written. It's very English. It reminds me of Britain. Of course, it's very nostalgic. And it's just beautiful. And I'll read you a few of the lyrics. No matter where I roam, I will return to my English rose. For no bonds can tempt me from she. I've sailed the 7 seas, flown the whole blue sky, but I have returned with haste to where my love does lie. No matter where I go, I will come back to my English rose, for nothing can tempt me from she. I've searched the 7 mists, I've climbed the highest peaks, and caught the wild wind home, to hear her soft voice speak. No matter where I roam, I will return to my English rose. For no bonds can ever keep me from she. Been to ancient worlds, I've scoured the whole universe, and I caught the first train home to be at her side. No matter where I roam, I will return to my English rose, for no bonds can ever keep me from she. Come on, if you're not crying right now, you have no heart. Yeah, just a beautiful song. Check out the Jam. I'll leave a link to a YouTube link for the video for that song. Rachel, thank you so much. Thanks for having the contest. And here's to many more subscribers and many more great videos on your channel. And love you. Thank you.